You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Well, when I graduated from law school and took my first job, that was me. I was a public defender here in Massachusetts, working for the Committee for Public Counsel Services, which is the public defender agency for Massachusetts. And when I first started out, I was working primarily in two courts up in Northeast Massachusetts. And I don't remember the exact details of how it came to be known, but it became public knowledge that the courts were not actually appropriately determining people's eligibility for appointed counsel. So here in Massachusetts, the way that works is if you're charged with a crime, the screening for appointment of counsel takes place via probation. So the probation department will ask you a set of questions, and they will make a preliminary determination. And based upon that, you either will or won't be assigned counsel. Now, the way that's supposed to work is based upon how much income you have coming in compared to that of the federal poverty guidelines. And you can learn more about that in the links below. But suffice to say, it's a sliding scale that changes based upon your household size, and to some extent whether or not you're in the contiguous or non-contiguous United States. So basically what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to figure out what your income is. And if you are making less than 125% of the poverty line, then you're appointed counsel. And that is what the probation department was doing. They were saying if you're 125 or below, appointed counsel. If not, then they were saying, no attorney for you, you can get your own attorney. Problem is, that's not the rule in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, there's the classification of indigent, which is 125 and below. But there's also the classification of indigent but able to contribute, which goes all the way from 125% of the poverty line up to 250% of the poverty line. Which means that if you are charged with a crime in Massachusetts and you make somewhere between 125 and 250% of the poverty line, then you are entitled to representation by a public defender. Now you have some ability to contribute, and so what the judge can do is they will assess a fee and ask you to pay some nominal fee for the services of that attorney, but usually ends up just being a couple $100. And so the problem was that probation was getting the rule wrong. And so me and my young attorney programming way said, you know, it seems like they're just, maybe it's too complicated then for them with the math. So because, you know, the people have math phobia and all this sort of thing. And so I actually created a little program that helped figure out whether or not someone was eligible under the first pass of these rules. And this is actually just a codification of a piece of paper that in theory, the probation department was using to help make these determinations. Anyhow, at the end of the day, what ended up happening is we ended up having a conversation with the probation department, sat down with them, my supervisor and myself, and we just walked through the rules, which I knew very, very well because I had encoded them into a program. And that's actually one of the really big benefits that you're going to find in a lot of the work we do here. Yes, it's nice to be able to take route tasks and to do them automatically, but there's also a real benefit in taking a task and breaking it down to its component parts such that it's something that you can automate, because once you do that, then you really, really understand what's going on. And again, I think I've said it before, you learn, often people learn best by teaching. And if you can teach a machine how to do something, then you've really learned what it is you're working on. So your task today is to replicate that experience. What you're going to do is you're going to go to a list of different jurisdictions, which you can find in the link below. There's a spreadsheet there. If you're an enrolled member of the class, you should have access to that sheet. You'll go and you will claim a state. Once you have claimed a state, you'll see a link also below, but also in the spreadsheet, which will take you to a 50-state survey, which will tell you the rules in that jurisdiction as to whether or not, or under what circumstances someone qualifies for appointed counsel. Your task is to find the rules for that jurisdiction, do a little research. This survey was put together a few years ago, so do some research and make sure that your chosen jurisdiction still has the same rules, or find out what the new rules are. And then you are to take those rules, and your mission, after you claim that jurisdiction, look through this 50 state survey, make sure that the rules are up to date, is to create a flow chart for that jurisdiction based upon those rules to answer the question, will the state appoint counsel? Okay. After you have made that flow chart, you're going to take it and you're going to turn it into a Q&A interview, and then you're going to share it with your peer review partner. Okay, so your peer review partner should have been established at our class meeting last time along. So you will exchange with your peer review partner. So work out a time for them. That's going to be enough time for you both to do your review of the materials and to create the interview. And then you're going to walk through a review with them. You're going to want to sit down. You're probably going to want to schedule 30 to 45 minutes that you can both sit down together and walk through your interviews, because what you're going to go through is a very simple sort of user review. So when you sit down with each other, what you're going to do, most likely you'll do a Zoom, and you can do a share screen. And what I suggest each partner do is that one person's going to go through the other person's Q&A, and then you're going to swap. And in those circumstances, what you're going to do is you're going to narrate your thought processes as you go through the interview. So that would mean like, oh, okay, let's see, my income is this. Okay, so I'm going to click this. Oh, that was a little confusing. What do I do here? I don't understand. And your job, if you're not the person going through the interview, is to watch and listen to the other person's experience and to capture as much information as you can about that experience, the places that things worked well, the places where things didn't work well. And you're going to want to go through and you're going to want to do each of these scenarios listed here. Okay, so first scenario, you're a 38 single parent of 3, earning $25,000 a year before taxes, charged with a felony. Okay, so the question is, do you qualify in that jurisdiction? Then second scenario, you go through and you act as if you're a 17-year-old living at home with 2 parents and 2 siblings who earn $44,000 a year before taxes, charged with a misdemeanor. Do you qualify? Okay, and you're just going to work through each of the scenarios laid out here. I'll also make those available down below. And your goal is to get through those scenarios before we meet next for our synchronous meeting. So you're going to have to need the time that you need to build the interview and to share that interview with someone. So you're going to want to probably start early on that and make sure that you have something together. I know you can do the Q&A interview because you all did great on the DACA interviews. And we're just going to go from there. There's some other stuff that I'll be teaching you below that will be stuff that we'll start working on in class. But this challenge is something that you should have done before we have class on Monday. So I just want to say, as always, good luck.